Politicians, huh? They sure love to make those big sweeping promises, The kind of stuff that just grabs your attention, like, wow, if they actually pulled that off.
It's a bit of a political dance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Big promises on the campaign trail, the realities of actually running a government hit. Suddenly things get a lot more complicated.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of leads us right into what we're diving deep into today. We're going to unpack some of those claims that have been thrown around, specifically about making the government more efficient and, well, cutting the budget a lot. We're going to be looking at all this through this YouTube video from the Ring of Fire. They really dissect some of the stuff Elon Musk has been saying.
Okay, so the jumping off point here, as the video lays out, is this idea that Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been pushing, right? They talk about taking a huge chunk, like $2 trillion out of the federal budget, and they want to do it by setting up this Department of Government Efficiency. Big name, big goals.
$2 trillion. Whoa, that's a serious number. But the YouTube video, they kind of slam on the brakes right away. They point out that the entire discretionary spending of the U.S. government, that's the part Congress gets to adjust each year.
Right, the non-essential stuff.
Exactly. So that whole pot of money, they're saying it's only about $1.7 trillion annually. Now, hold on a sec. We're talking about cutting $2 trillion from a pool of money that's smaller than that to begin with. Like, how does that even... It just doesn't quite add up, does it?
Yeah, that's a pretty major discrepancy right off the bat. It makes you wonder if those initial numbers were, thought through completely. Like, does the math even work here?
And then the video highlights this interesting shift, this change in what Musk seems to be expecting. Like, he backpedals a bit, says getting $1 trillion in cuts would be a best case. I mean, that's a big drop, right? From $2 trillion down to $1 trillion.
Yeah, cutting it in half, basically. Almost like realizing, oh, wait, this is harder than it sounded.
Exactly. The video then compares this to, well, remember when Trump kept promising to make groceries cheaper? Remember all that? They're kind of lumping those two things together, saying it's all about making these promises you can't keep. In their words, we duped you, which, strong words, just laying out what the video is saying, of course.
Right. They have a pretty strong take. But the bigger picture here is something we see a lot in politics. Like, saying something sounds great on the surface, but actually doing it, making it happen in the messy world of government, well, that's a whole other story.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, the video does say there might be a silver lining to those lowered expectations. They suggest that if the big, scary target number gets smaller, well, maybe those big, scary cuts to the huge programs like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, maybe those become less likely. Those are the ones everyone gets nervous about, right?
Right. Those are the big ones, the programs that affect a lot of people. They're mandatory spending, meaning they're kind of set in stone by law, not just decided year to year. So yeah, if the overall pressure to cut gets dialed back a bit, maybe those programs get a little breathing room.
Makes sense. So where does the video think the government could actually save a bunch of money? They point to two places, two big areas that could have a real impact if we're talking serious numbers.
And the first one they jump on is, no surprise, the military budget. They basically say, cut it now, and you'll get most of the money you're looking for. And get this, they claim that even after big cuts, the U.S. would still be spending more on the military than anyone else.
Wow. Okay. That's a bold statement. And the second target they mention is those tax cuts for the wealthy, getting rid of them. But it's interesting, the video clarifies that this wouldn't exactly be cutting spending. It'd be more like
bringing in more money to pay for the stuff we already have to pay for.
Right, exactly. So it's not so much about slashing budgets as it is about getting more cash in the door, right?
Sure. Exactly. By getting rid of those tax cuts, the government would have more money from taxes to use for everything it needs to cover. So it's a way to approach the problem from a different angle, rather than just going through and making cuts everywhere.
Gotcha. So according to the video, those two areas, the military budget and the tax cuts for the wealthy, that's where you could actually get close to that initial $2 trillion in savings. Maybe not all of it, but a good chunk. Yeah. But then they throw in this big but. They're pretty skeptical that Musk would actually push for those changes, either one.
And they have their reason for thinking that. For one, they point out that Musk's companies, they probably have a lot of contracts with the military, right? So making big cuts to the military budget, that could end up hurting his own businesses. Kind of a conflict of interest there, maybe?
Yeah, definitely something to think about. And on the tax cut thing, they bring up the fact that Musk moved to Texas. Texas is the land of low taxes, so they're kind of implying that he benefits from those lower taxes, and so
he might not be so keen on seeing them go away. It's like, if you're already getting a good deal, why rock the boat?
Right. But even with all that, the video ends with a warning. They say that even though the big 2 trillion number seems to be shrinking a bit, there's still this worry that Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those big programs, they could still be on the chopping block.
Yeah, it's like this underlying pressure to cut, to find savings somewhere. It just doesn't go away. And that makes people nervous, especially when it comes to programs that a lot of people rely on, programs that are there to help when they need it most.
So just to sum up our little deep dive here, inspired by that YouTube video, we started with this huge attention-grabbing number, $2 trillion in potential savings. Then we saw it shrink, maybe a dose of reality sinking in. And we looked at where the video thinks the real savings could come from the military and those tax cuts for the wealthy. But the concern that cuts might hit those big social programs, well, that's still hanging in the air.
I think it just shows how complicated all this is, this whole conversation about government spending and efficiency. I mean, the budget is massive. There are tons of different priorities fighting for attention. And anytime you try to make big changes, well, there are going to be trade-offs, tough choices.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, something to chew on. When we look at all this government spending, all the different things it pays for, what do you think really drives those decisions about where the cuts happen? What's going to be the focus in the future? We talked about different parts of the budget, the stuff Congress controls year to year, the programs set in stone by law, and even how much money the government brings in through taxes. What do you think is going to happen? What seems possible politically? What changes would really shake things up, for good or for bad? This deep dive, based on that YouTube video, well, it definitely gives us a peek into just how tough it is to take those big, bold promises and actually make them happen in the real world.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's going to keep going, and it's one worth paying attention to.
It sure is.